Can somebody tell me?
No.
Very informative and
How about now?
forward-looking. I appreciate the opportunity. Good morning and welcome.
Yes.
So we're good? Somebody nod. Thanks.
You need to go back to Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our webinar this morning. A very exciting topic that I think we're talking about as we look around the world and see what's going on, with folks trying to be environmental stewards and trying to deal with some of the carbon that we have available to us in the world. How does the business community, government, scientific community all come together to be able to deal with some of those problems, and at the same time create an environment where landowners can increase their profit margins, and of course what we know with the issues we deal with, that keeps kids on the farm and keeps our small communities rolling. So I just think a very exciting time and a very exciting topic. I would let you know that we are also streaming this event on YouTube, so that if you miss something as we go through the day, you can come back and click on that link and watch it again. Make sure that you all have an opportunity to do that, and look forward to answering questions for everyone, and hope you enjoy the webinar. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Dale Steenbergen. I'm President CEO of the Greater Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce. And I think this is a very important business issue that business needs to be involved in as we look to deal with carbon and figure out how to improve our world by carbon capture and soil improvement. So I'm very excited for the business community to be a part of this and to be supportive of this program. Sitting to my right is Lou Harmon. He's an engineer with Western R&D, and he's actually the guy that has knowledge that we're all thirsty for. And so we'll get Lou to introduce himself, and he can kick us off with the program.
Good morning. Thanks, Dale. I'm glad to be here. I grew up on a sandhill farm and ranch 2.5 miles from the neighbors. So even though I've been an engineer all my professional life, I still have the understanding of the way grass grows and what it takes to make it grow. And I think this is a great opportunity where we can use some resources that we haven't been using in the past to make the grass grow better, and cows grow fatter, and capture a little carbon in the process.
Thank you very much. You're going to be hearing from 3 groups today. You're going to be hearing from the Carbon Asset Network, Encore Green Environmental, and Synergy for Ecological Solutions. We do have a special guest who, even though he's not here in person, did want to share a special message with you. So we're pleased to have a video from Governor Mark Gordon talking about this program.
Good morning and welcome. You're joining a webinar hosted by Encore Green. that is bound to be very informative and forward-looking. I appreciate the opportunity to welcome you and have a few minutes of your time today. We all know that Wyoming is facing a vast number of challenges, seemingly from all directions. The Biden administration seeks to end all fossil fuel use, or at least that appears to be in their agenda. I believe that view is short-sighted, though, and misguided. Coal, oil, and gas can be part of the solution to climate change. Wind and solar have impacts just like everything else, and we must take a very objective, very fair look at all these things in concert. The president may want to run a climate litmus test for all our traditional energies, but if he does, he better take a hard look at the consequences of removing them. You know, I remain hopeful that some in the administration will see the value of fossil fuels and these industries, especially with regard to what they have already done to approach the carbon capture issue. I also believe that they will realize the value of our open spaces and our ranches and farmers, stewards of some of the most precious places we have. Farmers and ranchers have long understood the dynamics of soils, crops, and carbon. Even without knowing it, they were doing it. This is where you all come in. The ecosystems our farmers, ranchers, and scientists help manage are carbon capture facilities already. Soil health is at the very base of nearly all of our ecosystem issues. Whether we're talking about rangeland setting or a furrowed field, it all comes back to the soil. I firmly believe that our producers are among the best in the nation, and they can lead the way to increased carbon capture. I also believe we should lead the nation. A combination of sound agricultural practices, many of which we already do, and mechanical carbon capture can help our economy keep our mineral industry strong. The economic beneficiaries include individuals, the state as a whole, and even our nation and the globe. Simple changes can have dynamic and dramatic effects, both good and bad. And that's why today's webinar is so important. We all need to learn together to maintain our way of life, and that starts with events like this. As we approach these new issues, we must remember where we've come from and capitalize on the wealth of knowledge we already have, whether it's from our university, our industries, or the ag community. They all are important. Again, thank you for allowing me to put in my 2 cents this morning, and thank you for joining this webinar. I look forward to our collective future success.
Okay, well, let's start with Jeff Holder from Synergy for Ecological Solutions to present the program.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Let me just pull up our screen here. We welcome you guys. We appreciate everyone who's joined. We want to jump right in. As Dale mentioned, these are the groups. We appreciate Dale and the Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce for hosting us today. We appreciate all their efforts and how they've been helping us as well to host this. We got 3 groups here. I'm going to just briefly tell you what each 3 group is, because all 3 are coming together to achieve what we say is climate wellness through soil health. So the first group is the Carbon Asset Network. That's a network of farmers, ranchers, people who have open land who wish to do things either towards regenerative ag, or they want to be a part of the solution of somehow using their areas to be for carbon sequestration. Now that could also be a bunch of parks. It could be a golf course, right? So it could be, so that's what the Carbon Asset Network pulls, that network of those, of that land and those people who work the land together. Synergy for Ecological Solutions, just below, we call it S4ES, is a nonprofit. It's a registered 501c3 nonprofit, and it works to raise donated money that people are giving toward climate wellness. All right, and we'll explain how that works. And then Encore Green Environmental is a company that specializes in water and partners and comes alongside the Carbon Asset Network in certain situations to be able to be bringing water to an area where, and as we know, to improve soil health, water's a big component of that. So that's the people who are kind of sharing today. I'm kind of the spokesperson for all of us, and then in just a moment we'll hear from others, especially as we dive into questions. The program that we're talking about is called U360. It's you because we're looking to try to empower you, no matter what your walk of life is, no matter what your interest is in being at this webinar here. We want to empower you to be a part of the solution of climate wellness. And we're 360 because we're going to do a total ecological solution. Everything kind of sometimes kind of works in a circle, right? At some level. So we're going to bring about a total ecological solution, bring all these different people, all these different groups together. So U360 is the program that we're offering people to be a part of. And there's different ways that you can participate. We call it a new dimension of ESG and sustainability. And we say it's a new dimension because what we're talking about here is very different than what you might have be planning when you joined a carbon credit webinar, right? Or a carbon farming webinar, or any of these other kind of words that are used to describe it. And that's actually not what we're talking about. We're actually talking about something very different. So part of what we're doing here today is we're trying to tell you what we are, but we also have to kind of tell you what we're not. And just to define our terms so everybody knows what we're talking about, ESG stands for environment, stewardship, and governance. And that is what it started with Fortune 500 companies, where shareholders were saying, we're wanting you to return an investment to us. Don't get us wrong, we want the money. But at the same time, we want you also taking some of that money and do good. Take care of the environment, help the homeless, just accomplish something good in our world in addition to only returning value on our shares. And so that started in the Fortune 500 type companies, and it's really trickled down now to where companies of any size, business of any size, knows that their customers and their clients are wanting them to be doing good while they also do well, right? So that's our goal here, is to really introduce to you this new dimension. And it does help to tell you what we're not at some level, to tell you what we are, only because we're trying to get your mind rethinking. We're not talking about carbon credits. And that's what we usually are thinking about when we think about carbon and the soil and programs and things like that. Instead, what we are talking about on the right-hand side of the screen, it's a donation model. So it's not a government credit thing. It doesn't have the same protocols that cap and trade does. As you may be aware of, NORI and some other protocols to really say, hey, I'm going to get a carbon credit for my land, or I'm going to be interested in buying carbon credits. Those credits are very difficult. The protocols are really unmanageable. Land is being locked up for 10 years. There's other kind of oppressive things. That's kind of why cap and trade hasn't really taken off. It's just because it's really a tough thing to accomplish. So instead, what we worked with is a land-centric, manageable protocols that are easy to accomplish compared to cap and trade. It still takes effort and still takes work, of course, but it's not the draconian kind of things that the cap and trade offers. This also isn't a one-size-fits-all program. A lot of programs are, hey, this is us, and if you want in, this is how you have to do it. What we're saying is, we are customizing the program around you. And that's also part of why we call it U360, is because those who are the land stewards that we might be talking to right now, we're saying to you, we want you with us and our agronomy staff to develop a plan that's your plan on how to increase your soil health. As I've said before, it's not a government program. It's actually all part of the private sector. So we're trying to say, look, you know what? The federal government hasn't solved this. Big business hasn't solved this. Here's the path forward. The path forward is, let's get the private sector, let's get donation models going, let's make it work. So we're going to bring together two different people. All right, so we're going to tell our little story here. So we got two groups of people. One we call change agents. The other group we call land steward. And a change agent is simply those who want to help the environment. Okay. A land steward are those who manage the land. And again, that could be the context of farming, ranching, just you have a lot of open land that you want to be doing something good with. It could be a series of parks. It could be a collection of golf courses. All right. So it's change agents and land stewards coming together. And a change agent is 76% of Americans say climate change is a crisis or a major problem. Okay. You got to remember that the millennial age person, since they were in diapers, has been being told that the planet is in trouble and that the environment is changing. They've been being told this their entire life. They don't ever remember that being a new idea. They've just always known it. And the millennial generation isn't the 20 somethings anymore. The oldest millennial is 40 years old right now. They're people who are running businesses, they're raising families, they're a part of normal society. We always used to think of millennials because they were in college or something. They weren't quite with us. But we're talking about a group of our population that wakes up every day in the back of their mind, they're worried about climate. They're just worried about it. They've been told this for so long, and they are frustrated. The reason they're frustrated is because they're being offered very simplistic actions to try to solve this problem. They've been told there is this terrible problem in our world, but you as an individual can't do anything about it. You're told you can recycle, put your milk jugs over here and your trash over there, right? You can do that. We watched a really interesting documentary called Kiss the Ground, and it was really about soil health. And it was really great. And then the call to action at the end was, he said, well, maybe buy local and eat vegan, right? Or we're just, or they're told, look, you just got to wait on the government to do something. Federal government's got to do something, or we got to protest big oil, or in other words, that's the only options they have. And there's this growing sense of frustration of, I want to do something. You've been telling me my whole life that something's wrong. There's not something that they can do, except until now with U360. The other group is the land steward. And many farmers and ranchers are desiring regenerative ag practices, and many of them have started some. But often you need a new source of financing to try to help that. We all know agriculture has thin margins, and it's a very unpredictable kind of an endeavor. And so my brother's an agronomist, and this is how life is. So you can't say, I want to go buy a new piece of equipment, or I'm going to completely change my practices, because you're going to need cash to do that. Yet 40% of the ag community say that, like, the USDA paperwork's too burdensome. 28% say it's just too hard to do these programs. And not that they're bad programs, they work for a lot of people, but they don't really work if you don't really fit the profile of exactly doing the way that those kind of programs want you to do. In other words, you don't get to customize your program. So there really isn't a thing for you to do to be able to do this carbon capture, this soil health program until now. So that's what U360 is doing. We're bringing the change agents together with the land stewards. So we got three groups, okay? One program, the same mission: climate wellness through soil health. So let's talk about just a quick little science lesson here. And I'm going to be very simplistic. If you have further questions on this, at the end, our agronomist, Neil Ferringer, is on the line, and he will be happy to explain detail to you. But basically, we all kind of remember at least enough of photosynthesis from our science books to know that essentially what it is, if you take water and you take sunshine, you grow some vegetation, that as that happens, essentially carbon dioxide is pulled from the air and put into the roots and soil. Same time, oxygen is released up into the air. So Elon Musk just offered a $100 million prize to someone who can build a machine to pull carbon out of the air. Because the big complaint amongst the people who are against fossil fuels is that we're just putting too much carbon up into the air and we need to pull the carbon out. But we don't need a $100 million machine. Nature already has this covered. It's just simply called photosynthesis. This is how we clean up our air. So the linchpin then is if we can increase photosynthesis, we'll clean up our air. If we can to increase photosynthesis, we then need greater soil health. And that's simply the connection from a quick science lesson standpoint. We're simply trying to achieve climate wellness through soil health, because photosynthesis is the engine, that's the machine, if you will, that's going to drive this. So let's take a look at a little chart, right? Charts are always good. So you can probably find yourself somewhere in this chart. Let's start at the very top, up at 12 o'clock, if you will. Change agents are who start this whole thing off. It might be an individual, might be a family who raise their hand and say, hey, I want to do something about climate change and I'm going to donate money toward soil health, toward projects that are going to be increasing climate wellness. It might be a business, small business, could be a storefront retail business, could be a mammoth skyscraper business that does hundreds of millions of dollars a year. They can donate for their ESG goals. They can donate to communicate to the world that they're wanting to make a difference in our environment. So that starts there in a donation model. It moves to the right to the nonprofit, because they are donating to a nonprofit. They're getting a tax deductible receipt. The 501c3 S4ES takes in the donations and then grants money to Carbon Asset Network for soil health projects for land stewards that are in the network of Carbon Asset Network. So the funding comes from the change agents, goes to the nonprofit. Nonprofit grants it to Carbon Asset Network, who has this collection of soil health projects. The money goes to the land stewards, who are then able to enact over a 12-month program to increase their soil health project. And that's going to be customized for what they're doing, meaning their land goals. So it's not a one-size program, but the money flows to them to be able to empower them to perhaps buy new equipment, do different kind of practices. Encore Green Environmental, in some instances, is able to come in and partner with them to be a part of providing water to that soil health project. And then continuing on around the clock, as we go from the bottom up around to the left, what happens? Well, with these different practices, with an increase in soil health, you get greater vegetation. And because of photosynthesis, you get greater vegetation, better soil, you end up with better air quality. Seeing a difference after 12 months, that this is better, this is working, this is the new way forward, that encourages the change agents to continue again, and the cycle starts all over again in a nice little 360 cycle of how we're accomplishing climate wellness through soil health. So now we're going to talk about what each different kind of group of person, how they can get involved in being a part of this, right? The very first is, of course, individuals and families. And through donations, you're a person, right? You or your family, you could take it on as a family project to do, perhaps to whatever, but you can donate to Synergy for Ecological Solutions that goes towards soil health that ultimately ends up in climate wellness. So you as just an individual, you as a family can be a part of it. But we also have another group. Dale's the president of the Greater Cheyenne Chamber of Commerce. Dale, tell us some things that perhaps other chambers of commerce might be able to be involved, or community leaders.
Yes, Jeff. So, chambers, well, for one thing, the ag community is part of most chambers, at least in the Western United States, part of our membership, right? And agriculture is very important. So maintaining you know, strong ag community is good for the economy and good for most of the states that we work in. I would say directly from a chamber, we are hearing from really by now businesses of all sizes, exactly what you said, Jeff, that there is a big drive to make sure that we leave our kids a world that is sustainable and is productive for them. As you look around the country right now, see a lot of chambers starting to try to get involved in these kinds of issues. So through one of our national organizations, there's actually a coalition of chambers that joined together to deal with these kinds of issues, to try to help businesses figure out how to be good environmental stewards and to make sure that their communities are sustainable. And there's some small ways to do that. Maybe it's a green space in communities or advancing community gardens in communities where there's a lot of poverty and folks need to try to provide some food for themselves. There are chambers that are launching on some bigger issues too. So something like carbon capture is what we're talking about. So I think there's a wonderful opportunity for chambers and businesses around this country to engage with agriculture and create a better future for all of us. So I would say the best way is to engage with Encore Green and this group to start looking at those opportunities
Right.
that they might be able to employ in their community.
Right. And one of the things is that Synergy for Ecological Solutions can provide to communities, towns, to promote this program. We can come to a localized webinar, just like we're doing right now. So we can provide any kind of assets, resources. At the end, we'll tell you how to get in contact with us. But communities are really the heart and soul of our nation. And so as community leaders, as local government, state government, you can spread the word about the U360 program, because every constituent that you have is a potential person to be able to get involved with it. The other thing, sorry about that. We seem to have, let me go back to sharing my video because I wanted to go through a couple other quick points. The other thing, of course, is businesses. And Marvin Nash from Encore Green Environmental is here. Marvin, why don't you tell us a little bit about how businesses can get involved?
There we go. Business. Thanks, Dale. See, you're already a hero. You got us talking. You know, businesses are the lifeblood of communities. Communities are made up of their industries, and it is really interesting. You know, Mr. Gates, Bill Gates, has a new book out about what we need to do to survive climate change. Elon Musk, as you referred to, you know, here's $100 million for the right technology. I'm just an ag guy, you know. I'm just a kid raised up in South Texas on the land. Been in the agriculture world all my life, and I've always seen that if there's a problem, let's fix it. And businesses are the people that do that. Communities are the people that do that. This webinar idea actually came from listening to different groups in the Wyoming, in the state of Wyoming, come together and say, hey, we want to do something within our community, but like you said, Jeff, we don't know what to do. So here's an opportunity. Not, you know, Elon Musk has called for 2025, Earth Day 2025, to announce the winners of his $100 million project. You know, I don't want to wait to 2025. I want to start Monday morning. And we've already started. You know, we've already, Neil Farringer, who we'll hear from, has done benchmarking and testing on nearly 20,000 acres of how much carbon is currently captured, so that we can see the fruits of our labors and see how that happens. But at the end of the day, like Dale said, and we'll keep referring to it, an opportunity for chambers and communities and individuals within the community. And you know, I'm a big fan of our Native American folks. And one of them, I always get a post that says, you know, one thing about the left wing and the right wing, they both are attached to the same bird. You know, we're attached to the bird of leaving our kids a better place. My wife actually started all of this with a hope and a desire to make it better for our grandkids. And so I don't want to get all sappy and, you know, but at the end of the day, we're here to protect our kids and our grandkids. And so the communities are the place that it can actually start. So yeah, Jeff, we're probably not going to be any better than our networking and our community involvement on accomplishing our goals.
That's right. And again, just like for chambers or cities, the nonprofit S4ES will also send reporting on the progress that's going on, media assets. We'll come alongside you and help promote this program with you, and also to help the business that you're a part of to be able to reflect their participation and their empowering the climate wellness. So we come alongside you and help make this work for you in a kind of a turnkey method. The last group of people that might be on this call that we are a part of, and that's land stewards. John Robitaille, who's the director of the Carbon Asset Network. Why don't you walk us through a little bit of about the CAN program for the land stewards?
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. Again, I want to make it very clear that really any open space, whether that be a park or a golf course, perhaps even these green areas that we've been discussing, they can all partner with us besides our agricultural partners. So just want to make that very clear. So essentially what we do, we start with our partners with an MOU. It's a very simple MOU. It's something that just helps us with our record keeping and provides us the opportunity to understand that we're working together. Once we get the MOU signed, we send out our certified agronomist, Neil Farringer, who is on the phone with us today. And Neil comes out and takes soil samples. He does sample down to 24 inches, which is somewhat unique. These other plans really only go to 6 inches. We'll take those samples and send them to a certified lab. And once we get those results back, that's when we start to really develop a customized plan. Now, this customized plan may include things like different types of seed mixes that may be beneficial to your operation. Maybe an addition of different water types. Maybe things like different grazing patterns, that sort of thing. So once we figure that out and we agree on this plan, while it's not required to follow your plan, it is highly recommended that you follow this plan. We believe that given the information we have, we think that these plans would be the best option for you to increase your plant yield, which in turn would increase carbon capture in your soil with a healthier soil. So like Jeff mentioned, CAN gets donations from the Synergy for Ecological Solutions to implement these plans. These funds would be provided to the partner in the CAN network once every 12 months, and those funds would then be used to accomplish your plan. Of course, after the 12 months are up, we would come back to our partners and ask if they would like to re-up in our program, and then we would simply repeat the process. One thing that I want to make very clear, we're all aware of when a dollar comes into a community, that dollar is passed around that community multiple times. And again, this is a way to bring additional dollars into our state and into our community. And we believe that it is a very, very good way to improve soil health and climate wellness. I know that we will have time for additional questions if there are any, but in a nutshell, that's basically how we do things.
Great. Thanks, John. What will up on the screen now is the really the best next step. We will go to questions, so we're not wrapping it up, but wanted to put this out here so you can copy down a way to contact us. This is my phone number. This is my email. You can contact me, and no matter what your question is, I'll route you to the right person if I don't know the answer, or if you're wanting to join the U360 program, I can tell you what that involves. If you want to be making donations, I can tell you what that involves. I'll be the point of contact. I'll be the traffic cop to direct us around to all the different places. So that's the contact information. And now we'd love to hear from anybody that's on the webinar here, questions you might have. We gave a 10,000-foot level view of this. We didn't go into a lot of deep dive, but we'd love to know what your questions are and how we can answer them. So I'll turn it back to you, Dale.
I guess we're ready for questions. Do we have questions out there? If you'd raise your hand, we'll get to you, and just unmute yourself. See, a couple of folks have unmuted themselves. So what questions do you have?
Hi, I'm Brandy No.
Hi, Brandy. Go ahead.
How are you guys doing? Good conversation here. So I have a question. This is not working.
Again.
So how does U360 differ from other ag or land programs?
Jeff, do you want to answer that?
Sure. Well, actually, I'll knock it to John to kind of talk about the differential, and maybe even Neil can step in a little bit on how this compares to some of the other ones that are out there.
Well, okay. Thank you, Jeff. A lot of these different programs require a long-term commitment, 5 to 10 years, that sort of thing. And they're very specific what you can and cannot do. Many of these programs require you to say purchase a particular type of fertilizer or that type of thing. That was actually tied up. What our program is, it's strictly voluntary. It's a year-to-year basis. You are free to come and go as you please. If you don't want to join any longer, you don't have to. It is all voluntary, which is very different than any of the other programs I'm aware of. I think I'll toss it to Neil to see if he has any additional information on it.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending the program. I have reviewed a number of these programs as we have developed this program. One of the things I can say is, well, 2 weeks ago, we made a tour through Wyoming, Lander to Laramie to Cheyenne to Douglas to Casper and Harmon, and soil sample 20,000 acres in those 5 days. Everyone we met with, the land stewards, were very excited to be a part of this program, that they are concerned about their soil health and the climate wellness issue. So I have, having developed the protocol, one of the things you asked about what the difference is, and John highlighted a few of them, a lot of them seem to be geared toward large companies, offsetting their carbon footprint, if you say. And they're only focused on carbon sequestration from year to year, and they have an elaborate method of tracking carbon sequestration and validating that with companies that have certain models for doing that. as John said, ours is a year-to-year commitment. Everyone that I've taught, that I've gone through, a 10-year commitment by the land stewards that need to be followed. I talked to Yara, which is the world's largest fertilizer manufacturer, in a webinar, and what they told me was there was 3 protocols that they would give you up to $100 an acre the first year, and then it was whatever the value of the carbon that you sequestered thereafter. Well, the 3 protocols were reduced tillage. So, but if you started reduced tillage before 2020 and you sign up in 2021, it didn't count. Then the second thing was planting cover crops. They would give you up to $50 an acre for planting cover crops. And the third thing was using their nitrogen management program. Well, and the only crop they address at this time or have developed it for is corn. Well, all 3 of those didn't apply to 6 of the 7 people that we soil sampled during that week. And so the only one that would have qualified was a person that does farming. The other people are all range people or had perennial vegetation. So that's a big difference right there. Ours will work for any land use there is. There are millions of acres of rangeland across the Great Plains that we can enhance, as Jeff said, to increase the vegetation, which pulls in more carbon dioxide and releases oxygen, puts the carbon in the roots and in the vegetation that is produced. So we can deal with range, dryland farming, irrigated farming, and for any crop. Whereas all these other programs seem to be, they're going to trample each other over the acres in the Midwest. That's where they're really focusing. The other thing is, as it's been mentioned, we focus on carbon sequestration and soil health. So the other ones are just looking at carbon sequestration. And if you read their protocols, they'll mention 15 centimeters is the depth of sampling, or they don't mention it at all. But 15 centimeters is roughly 6 inches. We're going 0 to 6 and 6 to 24 inches, determining the carbon in both depths. The analysis is that I've looked at before, there's approximately as much carbon in the 6 to 24 as there is in the 0 to 6. And we know plant roots go, rangeland roots of plants will go down to 24 inches. Why not look at that as well? The soil health test is something unique that we're in a league of our own with. I mean, it's been tested. It was developed by an NRCS agent in Texas that started 20 years ago, and it's an accepted governmental practice or a test. And so between the two, that's what we're really looking at. And I'm focusing more on improving soil health because the carbon sequestration will follow. John mentioned a few things that on the collaborative plan that we will customize people is fencing, maybe additional water sources for cattle. If they have to walk a mile to water, what's gain and they're trampling the earth as they go and they're not feeding, and they stay around the water sources rather than in the back pasture. So we can do that. We will also look at weed control. Much of the Great Plains area has a tremendous amount of cheatgrass that steals water from the perennial grasses, and it's less efficient at water utilization. So we will be looking at those things and develop a unique program for each one. I think that's pretty much it as far as the comparison of us. The other thing, my employee says, having looked at this program, it is the most user-friendly program on the market compared to those. And I have developed a sheet that compares CAN to other carbon programs with a number of bullet points on it. So if you want to get a hold of Jeff, we can get that to you and you can look it over. But it is like I said, in a league of its own and very user-friendly. And really, we're focusing on soil health rather than just stopping at carbon.
Great, thank you, Neil. Other questions for our panel? One question I would have, maybe John would answer this, but certainly over the last few years, the ag community has been under quite a bit of economic stress, right? I mean, I remember myself selling calves for more in 2011 for substantially more than I get out of calves today. And at the, you know, and grain farmers, even though they're seeing a little increase here recently, last few years have been a little tough for some of them. And at the same time, we know that our consumers in cities, they are wanting to know where their food comes from, wanting to know that how it was raised. And so there's an interest for them to actually spend money to get what they want. So can you talk about that economic tie between, or the potential tie between ranchers and farmers, and what our consumers of food in the U.S. are looking for out of our producers, and how that might make a difference to a lot of us, our communities in the West who are agriculturally related?
Certainly. Thank you, Dale. So I want to make very clear that this program does not cost our partners anything. We take part of the donation and pay for this entirely. I also want to make it very clear that of these donations that come in, we're looking at 70% of it being returned back to our partners on the ground. Now, what that can be used for, as Neil mentioned, you know, perhaps we have an area that is overrun with cheat. Cheatgrass is a very invasive, very nasty little weed. We can come in and create a program which will eliminate that over time, of course. If we have additional water, that will only help the process. But what that does for the landowner is it increases his yield, not only on the ground, but also of his livestock that he's grazing. And then what he can do is perhaps they're interested in regenerative agriculture, or these kind of these new buzzwords that are out there, like you know, free range beef or grass fed beef, or whatever the case may be, so that we can identify the program that is necessary for the landowner, whatever they want to do, however they want to approach it, and we can collaborate on a really good plan and use this additional money that's coming in to help them implement those plans. It would be our intention that these dollars that come into the partners in our CAN program would then be spent throughout the community, whether it's your local feed store, or perhaps through an ag extension, or weed and pest, local weed and pest, something like that. But a way to keep the money in the community, and a way to help our landowner partners accomplish whatever goal they may have.
All right, any other questions for our panel?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pei Xu. I'm a professor at New Mexico State University. I know several of you through the New Mexico Produced Water Research Consortium. I apologize, I'm late for this meeting, even though I look forward to this meeting, because I think a lot of research you are doing will help the consortium, and also Neil serves on our technical steering committee of the consortium. Sorry I missed the presentation, but I wonder if it's possible that you can provide the slides so for me to review, because I'm very interested in the ESG to evaluate how you know, if we have additional water supplies, how this will affect the social, environmental, ecological, and economics benefits. So we call it SE3 evaluation, and ESG is one of the tools that we are looking at. I know Neil serves in the task committee for the SE3 evaluation, but any information you could provide will be a great help for our work.
Yes, for sure. What I'll do is, well, Pei, thank you for joining us today. We will, I'll send the PowerPoint deck to you, but we're also going to be putting the deck and also links to rewatch the webinars on our website as well. And that'll be kind of posted through our social media and those kind of places. But basically, you can always go to the big old long name, Synergy for Ecological Solutions.org. But Pei, we'll email you them as well, and we'll have them publicly available for everybody.
Okay, sounds great. And another question is, there are different tools for evaluate, like synergy or sustainability. Why you think the ESG was chosen for this project, and what do you compare the ESG with other evaluation tools?
Who wants to take a crack at that question? Marvin says he will take it, so let Marvin answer that.
Pei, thank you for joining us. Pei and I have known each other for a year or two now. Just in full disclosure, she's very active at the university. We really appreciate her input through the consortium and stuff. Pei, so we're pardon the pun, we're plowing new ground with the ESG matrix and benchmarks, and if I understand your question, you're wanting to know how can we gauge that or monitor that. Number one is we're starting with a benchmark, and that's what Neil did with soil science. So that's the beginning. If we take 1 ton of carbon that's in the soil with density proven by testing, and we increase that to 2,100 pounds or 2,300 pounds, then that improves our benchmark. And so we know that we were able to accomplish that. There's a lot of environmental conditions, and you're working diligently with the state of New Mexico to figure out how to take byproduct waters or different waters to increase soil health. So our thought process is change agents, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or a mom and pop or a family of 3 or 4 or whatever, will be able to see in relative time what their contributions were able to bring about in that ESG component. Lou's been very quiet here, and I'm going to kind of drop this off onto Lou, the engineer part, because he's been at this for a long time, and this has kind of been one of his objectives in life, is to see the relativeness of what we're accomplishing. But Pei, it's all going to center from the benchmarks of where we're at to where we get to. And I think that's going to be the driving force behind the ESG part of it. But I'll let Lou comment on this, because after I got to know Lou, I realized how long he had been looking at this, both from a Colorado farm boy through the military, all traveling all over the world, through being an engineer. So Lou, you want to add a little bit to that?
Well, I call myself a wastewater engineer, but frankly, it's been a goal of mine for the last 40 some years professionally to make sure that it's not wastewater. Having always, not always, but having lived most of my life on the high plains, as a friend in Missouri once told me, east of the 100th parallel, water is to get rid of. West of the 100th parallel, water is for fighting over. So if we can take this, what we've been calling wastewater or byproduct water that we've been pumping down a well deeper into the earth, and take it out here and grow some more grass or alfalfa or corn or even a nice park, we're making more use of the rare asset of water that's made it all the way up here from the ocean. And also, we're capturing some carbon along the way.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even though I also think my identity is wastewater engineers, but wastewater is collected, I think we can call it recovered water.
And one more quick thing I'll add in terms of ESG. Our model is completely a donation model. It's not a government program. It's not involved with tax dollars or credits or anything like that. So one of the main reasons why someone would want to contribute toward climate wellness through soil health would be to meet their own businesses or maybe their own personal ESG goals. So that's kind of like on the other side, more on the economic model of what drives this. I think the desire for ESG from a donor standpoint, whether that's a business or an individual, is a lot of what also drives. And that's one of the reasons why we also kind of hang our hat on ESG and sustainability.
Yeah, thank you so much for the response. And I look forward to learn more about the ESG.
You know, Jeff, one of the things that we know from Chambers of Commerce working with U.S. Chamber of Commerce is that one of the primary goals of businesses nowadays is to be more socially aware and to, almost everyone's kind of guiding documents that used to say, primary purpose is to make money, now say do community good. So they're looking
Right.
for these opportunities, and that is a major shift in the mindset of American business. And I think for what we're trying to do, that offers some great opportunity to.
Yes, and what it also does is not only with the shareholders of these large corporations, public corporations saying, hey, we want you to do good, it really has changed the consumer mindset. So that all things being equal, in marketing, there's a big trend away from brand because of the internet has made us be able to review and see all sorts of different kind of products. Maybe we only used to know Levi's for our brand of jeans, right? But now we can learn about all sorts of things. And one of the deciding factors about why a consumer will buy a certain brand or not buy a certain brand is because they really value the brands, the companies that are actually accomplishing something positive in the world. And that can be defined a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to just be environmental, but it's a thing that's here to stay, and that the consumer feels a little more empowered to be able to choose that which matches their values. There's a whole trend toward values investing and values shopping. So I'll buy from you if I know part of my money is going to kind of help do good in the world. So it's a trend that seems to be here to stay. It's lasted. It's been increasingly growing instead of dwindling.
Yeah, I do think the other, that really has a trickle down effect too. I think if you watch the stock market and pay attention to folks who trade, that the folks who are purchasing stocks are also interested in companies' commitment to community good, because they feel like it has a significant impact on their long-term longevity and profitability. So this covers and trickles down all the way through the entire system. And I do think you're right. It's permanent, and its importance is going to continue to grow. Other questions? So don't see any. I know we're getting here to the end of the hour. If anybody have any final comments they'd like to share, and if not, we're going to wrap it up here. So,
I have a question. This is Brandy No. Another question if we have time for it.
Absolutely, Brandy, go ahead.
All right. Rural America understands, for the most part, the relationship between water, soil health, climate wellness, but urban America does not understand as well those correlations. Can you give a condensed explanation of why I should contribute to S4ES?
Yeah, I'll feel that. Real great question, because every type of nonprofit has to tell their story. And some stories are a little easier to tell. If you say there's homeless people and we're going to help them, okay, I know if I give to you what's going to happen. The challenge in front of S4ES is to actually be able to help people understand the connection between soil health and climate wellness. But we already right now sort of have a big, if you want to call it this, we have a big itch of people who want to do something about the environment. We have an educational mandate in front of us to help them understand, here's the scratch, if you want to use a silly analogy. So the way that we're going to do that is we're putting a marketing plan together right now to try to educate the consumer, the people who might want to donate toward this. Because right now, the paradigm they have is there's nothing we can do about the environment until somebody stops fossil fuel production. And we have to change that paradigm and say, over here is a different way. It's a new path. And we don't get caught in the fray of the politics. We just say, look, we're about the land. So the way that we have to do it is actually through education. We have to just help them see it. They want to do something. Every statistic out there says they want to do something. They just don't know what it is. So we have to do the marketing that says, hey, we're the answer. We're the button you push, right? So it's actually a big challenge for us to be able to spread the word and help people immediately see that connection. Because you're absolutely right. Ag people immediately see the connection. Neil has forgotten more things about photosynthesis than I even know, right? But we have to take the more urban community, because those will probably be our primary donor base. Maybe not, but this is something for the coastal cities. This is something for the major cities across the country. So it's a big lift, but I think the key to it is trying to fulfill the need they already feel. They just don't know this is the solution.
Thank you, Jeff. Go ahead, Brandy.
Sorry about that. Are you also targeting the environmentalists?
We're inviting them to come along with us. The environmental agencies themselves might perceive some of, in other words, it's sort of a nonprofit working alongside a nonprofit. We want to embrace them and say, we're trying to achieve the same goal. Perhaps we're using different ends. We would love to be able to show up to some of their conventions, some of their panels, show up on some of their Zoom calls, and be able just to offer this as a way forward. There are some environmental communities that may only see that stopping fossil fuel is really their agenda. And there's not much we can do with them. But a lot of the environmental groups see the bigger picture, which is we really want to help the environment. So we're wide open to everybody. We don't really have a dog in the political fight. We're just really here to say, look, we want the environmentalists to come along with us, because really we want that person who lives in San Francisco, works for Google. We want them to be a part of this program. We want the people who are everywhere. So yes, very much. That's a very good point. Yeah, we are reaching out to them. Sometimes nonprofits see other nonprofits as maybe competition for mailing lists, or hey, no, you give to me, I don't, So we have to tread that kind of carefully, just because some nonprofits don't play well with others. But we're friendly in the sandbox, so we play with anybody.
Great, thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Well, I think just in closing, I'd like to thank everyone who helped us answer questions today. And as we went through this program, I think you heard that it doesn't matter whether you live in the most dense of urban areas or you live in one of the most isolated agricultural operations in the U.S., this issue is important to you. And I am looking forward to the future as we get more folks on board and educate more folks about what we're trying to do to try to improve communities and soil health and capture carbon and offer opportunity for people across this nation. So thank you all for joining us. And if you registered, we will definitely send the links out so that you can go back and review parts of the seminar. And we hope that you do.